Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us on Velayat News. I'm Abroo Sabzwari, and now a look at the headlines for today. A blast kills 20 people in Egypt's North Sinai province. Stranded fugitive Edward Snowden seeks temporary asylum in Russia. Cairo tells Turkey not to meddle in Egypt's internal affairs. World powers hope to resume talks with Iran. Britain sanctions chemical warfare protection for terrorists in Syria. Immigrant children disappearing from Norway asylum centers. 7 Shia Hazara were martyred in Quetta, Pakistan by spy Sahaba terrorists. In the United States, Ramadan blessings reach the homeless. And now, the news in detail. At least 20 people have been killed in Egypt's North Sinai province after an explosion hit a bus carrying cement factory workers. The exact number of people on the bus is still unknown. Local officials said militants opened fire on the bus before the blast took place in the port city of El Arish early on Monday. The Sinai Peninsula has witnessed several instances of violence since President Mohammed Morsi's ouster. On July 3rd, the Egyptian army announced that Morsi was no longer in office and declared that the head of the Supreme Constitutional Court, Adli Mansour, had been appointed as the new interim president. Egypt's interim government prepares for the enormous task of returning the country to civilian rule and rescuing the economy, a process complicated by deadly protests and a political deadlock with powerful Islamist groups. The confrontations are increasingly polarizing the society between those who support the military intervention and those who oppose it. Former U.S. spy agency contractor Edward Snowden applied for temporary asylum in Russia on Tuesday after 3 weeks of being holed up at a Moscow airport trying to avoid prosecution in the United States on charges of espionage. The White House said Snowden is not a dissident and should be expelled and returned to the United States to face trial. Snowden is seeking refuge in Latin America after leaking details of U.S. government surveillance programs, but has not risked taking any flight that might be intercepted by the U.S. He flew into Moscow from Hong Kong on the 23rd of June. The asylum application could end Snowden's time in limbo, but risks deepening U.S.-Russia tensions. Russia has refused to expel him to his homeland, but has also kept him at arm's length, saying he has not crossed its border because he remains in the international transit zone at Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport. The new Egyptian government has warned Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan and his government officials against meddling in the North African's internal affairs. In an interview with Turkey's English-language daily Today Zaman on Sunday, Erdogan said that ousted leader Mohammed Morsi is the only legitimate president of Egypt. Erdogan stated that currently my president in Egypt is Morsi because he was elected by the people. On Tuesday, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry expressed strong resentment at comments like these, which represents a clear intervention in internal Egyptian affairs. Egyptian presidential spokesman Ahmed al-Muslimani also issued a statement about the issue, stating he considers the statements inappropriate and interference in Egyptian internal affairs. Al-Muslimani added that Turkey should respect Egyptian sovereignty and the will of the Egyptian people, adding that Egypt did not interfere in what happened in Taksim Square. World powers expressed hope on Tuesday of resuming negotiations with Iran over its disputed nuclear program as soon as possible, but gave no indication of a possible date for any new talks. Senior diplomats from the 6 countries negotiating with Tehran, the United States, Russia, China, France, Britain, and Germany met in Brussels to map out plans for diplomacy following the June 14th presidential election in Iran. Negotiations have been on hold since a failed round in April, and the six nations are keen to get back to the table amid concerns a breakdown in diplomacy could prompt Israel to attack Iran and spark a new war in the Middle East. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Catherine Ashton, who oversees talks with Iran on behalf of the six powers, said they were waiting for Tehran to nominate a team of negotiators after the presidential vote. The election of a relative moderate, Hassan Rouhani, on June 14th has raised hopes for a resolution of the long-running dispute over Iran's nuclear intentions. The UK government has announced a decision to equip foreign-backed terrorists fighting the Syrian government with chemical warfare protection, including escape hoods, drugs, and chemical detector paper. Foreign Secretary William Hague told MPs at the House of Commons that roughly £655,000 worth of equipment would be sent to the rebels as a matter of special urgency, accusing President Bashar al-Assad's government of deploying chemical weapons in the battlefield.
We have a very clear message for President Assad, which is it is time for him to go.
Previous investigations, however, have proved that foreign-backed terrorists used sarin gas in some areas to justify an all-out invasion by Western countries to topple the government of Bashar al-Assad. Last week, MPs passed a Commons motion calling on the government to seek the explicit consent of Parliament before deciding to arm terrorists in Syria. However, Prime Minister David Cameron had earlier reserved the right for his government to intervene wherever there were certain circumstances under which the government felt UK national interests were threatened. Over 100 immigrant children have been reported missing from Norwegian asylum centers, raising fears that they are victims of human trafficking. At least 106 immigrant children have been unaccounted for in the Scandinavian country since June 2012. The missing children were kept in asylum centers throughout the nation while waiting for an interview with the immigration office. The international NGO group Save the Children warned that many of the missing kids may have become victims of human trafficking. The nonprofit organization criticized Norwegian officials for failing to apply the same rules for missing Norwegian children to a child reported missing from the asylum center. Over the past 4 years, a total of 237 children have disappeared. Norway is regarded as a prominent transit and origin country for human trafficking, specifically for the purposes of forced prostitution and forced labor in the domestic and construction services. In Pakistan, at least 7 Shia Muslims, including a businessman and a boxer, have been martyred in 2 terrorist attacks by Lashkar-e-Jhangvi in Kuwait on Monday. According to details, a Shia businessman, Raza Hussain, the owner of Ali Traders, Muhammad Idris, a boxer, Ali Akbar, and Ali Raza were killed by Takfiri terrorists at the Liaquat Bazaar Masjid Road area. Within just a few minutes of the first attack, 3 more Shia Muslims were gunned down on Khudadad Road. Fayaz Sambol, the Deputy Inspector General Police, said 4 militants opened fire at the vehicle. All 4 men sitting in the vehicle were seriously wounded and succumbed to their injuries on their way to the hospital. Police said the victims belonged to the Shia Hazara community and were attacked when they were shutting down their shop. The target killing of 7 Shias in Quetta comes just 2 weeks after a deadly suicide bombing at a Quetta Imam Bargah, killing 30 Shia Muslims. Dozens of angry protesters blocked Jinnah Road outside the civil hospital to protest the killings, chanting slogans against the administration and demanded the arrests of the killers. The Hazara Democratic Party and other Shia organizations have called for 3 days of mourning and a shutterdown strike in protest. Here in the United States, putting a smile to the faces of those in need, Muslims in San Antonio, Texas are bringing the joy and compassion of Ramadan to the homeless, sharing special iftar meals and offering a better understanding of their Islamic faith. Cooperating with the Muslim Cultural Heritage Society, the Muslim Children Education and Civil Center MCECC offered a special meal to around 300 members of the city's homeless center, Haven for Hope. The meal served at Sunday evening came at the time of Muslims' iftar meal in Ramadan. The iftar was served by around 50 volunteers from both Muslim groups. The center's residents praised the initiative for offering them a chance to learn about Islam and its beliefs. Ramadan is one of the holy months in the Islamic calendar in which Muslims abstain from eating and drinking from dawn till dusk. Fasting is meant to teach Muslims patience, self-control, and spirituality, and the time during the holy month is dedicated for getting closer to Allah through prayers, reading the Noble Quran, and performing good deeds, including charity. During this holy month of Ramadan, we request all of you to please remember the Muslim families and innocent children suffering all across the world in Syria, Pakistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, Palestine, Turkey, Egypt, and wherever the Muslim Ummah is facing turmoil. Please also remember to pray for and support the families of the Shuhada who are being brutally tortured and killed for being Shia. And that brings us to the end of our bulletin today. If you'd like to contribute your community's news, you can email us at news@VelayatTV.org. You can also get the latest headlines and more by visiting our website, VelayatTV.org, or subscribe to and follow us on our YouTube and Facebook pages, Velayat TV USA. Many thanks for joining us. Till next time, I'm Abroo Sabzwari. Fi amanillah.